The Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens have the two best records in the AFC North, and barring an extreme collapse from either of these teams, both the Steelers and Ravens will make the playoffs this year. And while making the playoffs is a big accomplishment for some teams, both the Ravens and Steelers have a Super Bowl or bust mindset year in and year out. As we know, the Ravens made it to the AFC Championship game last year, and as we know with the Steelers, they have never had a losing record under head coach Mike Tomlin. Unfortunately, the Steelers haven't won a playoff game since all the way back in 2016, and some people think it's going to stay that way. In today's video, we will be responding to takes that were sent in earlier this week, and this is a series called Your Take Not Mine. This take from JKim7165 was that the Steelers and Ravens will both be one and done in the playoffs, and that is of course assuming they don't match up against each other. We will break down Jay's take in this video and several others as well, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing a take from BNC that says Bo Nix is the best quarterback in the 2024 class. It should be noted BNC has a profile picture of Pat Surtain, so I think it is safe to assume he is a Broncos fan, and I don't entirely disagree with this take. There's a few things that I think need to be noted with young quarterbacks that apply to Bo Nix, and other first or second year quarterbacks too. And at times we are all prisoners of the moment and see a young player, and especially a quarterback, make a play at 21 or 22 years old and assume they are going to be around for a long time. I know I recently did this with Drake May in a weekly recap, and I said I believe he is a franchise quarterback, but 3 years ago, Mac Jones, yes, the Mac Jones, was a Pro Bowler and threw 22 touchdowns and also threw for nearly 4,000 yards. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting only to Jamar Chase, and there was a point where people thought Mac Jones was the next Patriots quarterback. They went 10-7 and he looked really good. The reason we bring this up is because it's not unreasonable to say the Broncos can make the playoffs and win double-digit games in Bo Nix's rookie year. Now, I will say that I think Bo currently looks better than Mac did during his rookie season, but that is definitely something worth noting as we progress through the 2024 season and ultimately through the 2024 draft class's career. I think Bo has been a big surprise for not just Broncos fans, but for everyone, and we discussed this openly during a video a little over a week ago, discussing how insane the 2024 quarterback class already is, and one of my points of emphasis with Bo Nix and why I am so high on him at the moment is his supporting cast isn't exactly great. Per PFF, he's had 18 passes dropped during his rookie year, and the Broncos recently released 2022 4th-round tight end Greg Dulcich, and I don't think the receivers Bo is currently throwing to are good by any means, outside of Courtland Sutton, of course. His leading tight end in receiving yards is veteran Adam Troutman, who has just 158 yards on the year in 12 games, and that's good for 8th on the team. The one thing that I go back to with Bo is him starting the year with 0 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in the first 2 games against the Steelers and Seahawks, both of whom can make the playoffs, and the Steelers almost certainly will, and Bo never quit. Bo has thrown 16 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions since then, and he's really turned it on over the past 5 games in particular. And over the last 5 games, Bo has thrown for a little over 1,300 yards and has 11 passing touchdowns during this stretch. Over the course of a 17-game season, that would translate to 4,400 yards and 37 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. He also has a passer rating of 109.7 during this time, and the Bo Nix hype train is real. Currently, he is the best quarterback in the 2024 class, and the last few weeks have been really telling. But with the supporting cast Caleb Williams has, and with the significant improvement we've seen from Caleb over the last few games, the Green Bay game and Minnesota games in particular, I don't think it's set in stone by any means. We also haven't seen JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix play either, and hell, Jaden Daniels has been good, and so has Drake May. This class is insanely loaded, and I agree for now that Bo Nix is the best in the class, but I think it will certainly be an open discussion at season's end, and this class looks really good, and this could be the start of an all-time quarterback class. The next take is about Josh Allen, and I'm hoping this is pronounced right, but it's from Refasel, and the take is that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL right now and should win MVP, and that without him, the Bills would not be nearly as good as they are, and he is their main reason for them starting out 9-2. And I'll be honest, I heavily agree with the take. I think there is a lot of unfair criticism towards Josh Allen because of the emphasis placed on winning, fair or not, and in Josh's case, I think it's extremely unfair. The 13 seconds game summarizes what it's been like for Josh in the postseason, where he does everything he possibly can to win, only to fall short due to things out of his control. And within that game, Josh threw for 329 yards and 4 touchdowns, and had a passer rating of 136, and ran for an additional 68 yards, and his team put up 36 points. It's not a hot take to say that should be enough to win a football game, and that should have been enough for the Bills to move on to the AFC Championship. The next year against the Bengals was a frustrating loss, but there's been times where Josh is the punchline of jokes because he doesn't have a ring, but lifetime he has 21 passing touchdowns to just 4 interceptions in the postseason. And I know heading into 2024, people love talking about Josh's interceptions in 2023. They, of course, didn't put any context behind those interceptions, and Bills fans know where I'm going with this, but a lot of Josh's interceptions in 2023 out of the 18 he threw, well, a lot were way beyond the sticks and effectively became a punt, or they were on 4th down in opponent's territory trying to make a play, rather than not throw an interception and take a sack. Obviously, it's easier to make a joke online about the interceptions and not provide any context, but Josh hasn't turned the ball over much in 2024, and he didn't throw his first interception of the season until Week 8 against Seattle. And even in 11 games, Josh has 18 passing touchdowns to just 5 interceptions, and is currently on pace for 28 passing touchdowns, along with an additional 500 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but the Chiefs' defense is elite, and they have a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator leading them in Steve Spagnuolo. I don't think the Chiefs we know them as are the same without Patrick Mahomes, of course, I mean, obviously, but if you go by the definition of most valuable player to their team, then I think the answer is Josh Allen. The Ravens are also having a great year, and Lamar is certainly in the conversation too, and I think this also applies to Lamar because as Josh Allen or Lamar go, their offense goes too. But to go back to the take of without Josh Allen, the Bills' record wouldn't be close to what it is a take I couldn't agree with more. Josh Allen is the only player in NFL history to have 4 straight 40-plus total touchdown seasons, and he may have a 5th up his sleeves, but winning an MVP or winning a Super Bowl would do wonders for Josh's legacy. We all know about the record against Mahomes in the playoffs, but if the Bills were able to somehow pull out a Super Bowl, Josh would get a lot more respect from everyone. Voters, fans, especially people online, and I do agree with the take that Josh Allen should win MVP. I also think Josh should have multiple MVPs by the time his career is over, and if you go by the definition of most valuable player, I don't think there's a more valuable player to their team than Josh Allen. And with technology improving vastly over the past 15 to 20 years, long gone are the days of waiting in lines at midnight to get the best deals or your favorite things on Black Friday. TDs are on sale, and all you have to do is check out my partners, DraftKings Sportsbook, who have touchdowns on sale all weekend long, which is something everyone can get excited about. Right now, all new DraftKings customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using my promo code ANALYSIS. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. If you are like me, you are probably going to be watching all the games anyway, so why not spice it up and give it a shot? You can also stay in on the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use my code ANALYSIS and bet just $5 on any wager will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code ANALYSIS, and a big thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. The next take is from Zutoku8791, and the take is that the Seahawks will win the division and also win a playoff game. The 3 games Seattle lost in a row earlier in the year were all played within 2 weeks, but we are now seeing what a healthy Seahawks team looks like. I think this is a great take for a couple of reasons. Seattle started out 3-0 with wins over the Broncos, which was a rookie quarterback's debut, then went to New England in which they beat the Patriots in overtime with Jacoby Brissett, and then came home to play the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa. Their next 3 games were against the Lions, Giants, and 49ers, and what needs to be noted is the Lions game was in Week 4 on Monday night, and the Week 6 game against the 49ers was the following Thursday. I have been a big advocate for teams not playing division games on a short week, and we saw this with the Steelers recently, who played the Ravens in Week 11, then played the Browns on Thursday night in Week 12, and we also just saw this with the Bears, who played the Vikings in Week 12 and played the Lions on Thanksgiving in Week 13. I know the Giants Giants aren't in Seattle's division, but playing a road Monday night game 3 time zones away is tough for anybody, and it's especially tough on the body, and I wasn't surprised when Seattle lost the following week to the Giants, and given that they were already on a short week for the Giants game, I really wasn't surprised they lost to the 49ers on another short week, and allowed over 225 rushing yards in the process. We often talk about setting guys up for success on the channel, and we often do that with young quarterbacks, but that was not setting the Seahawks up for success at all. And since their mini bye after the 49ers game, they've went 3-2 with losses against the Bills and Rams in weeks 8 and 9. The Rams game in particular was a tough loss because it was an overtime loss, and there is an enormous difference between the Seahawks being 7-4 right now and 6-5. The good news for the Seahawks is they are tied for the division lead with the Cardinals, as they are also 6-5, and Seattle just beat them 16-6. Seattle's remaining schedule isn't the easiest, but they can beat the Jets, Bears, and definitely split the other 4 games between the Cardinals, Packers, Vikings, and Rams, which would put them at 10 wins. I do think 10 wins would be enough to win the division, and that would be huge in Mike Macdonald's first year as the coach of this team. You guys probably remember how high I was on Mike Macdonald this offseason, and I still very much think he is the head coach of the future in Seattle, and I think the progress in year 1 so far has been solid. The Rams are hot and cold, and there's games where they look like they could make a run to the NFC Championship game, and there's others where they look like they're a 7-win team with no real identity. But I think it's also worth noting the Rams' schedule down the stretch isn't too difficult, and if they get hot, which is possible with this schedule, they could steal the division. Arizona's schedule isn't the hardest either, and given that they are 6-5 and play Seattle again, they can steal a game from Seattle too. Arizona is definitely a sleeper team, but if I had to pick a team to win the West right now, I think it would be Seattle because I believe in Mike Macdonald, and I also believe that Geno Smith's interceptions will go down, meaning I don't think he's going to throw 20 interceptions this year. The 49ers are having a tough year, and I don't think they're going to win the division, but it definitely is possible. But if the Seahawks match up against the Packers or Vikings in the wild card round, I don't think they would win, but it would definitely be a close game, and without a doubt, be one of the best in the wild card round. Now, for the take that this video is titled after from JKim7165, that the Steelers and Ravens will both be first-round exits unless they, of course, play each other in the first round. We're going to discuss both paths, and the Ravens are up first. They are 8-4, and they are coming off of a year in which they went to the AFC Championship game. Yes, the Ravens, like every other team, has had bumps in the road this year. There's a reason that no team is undefeated, and then there's a reason that there's only been one undefeated team in the history of the NFL to go all the way, which, of course, was the 72 Dolphins. But the Ravens have looked better over the past couple of weeks, specifically defensively and specifically with their secondary, and that was one of the biggest concerns I had as the season was progressing. Yes, they did sweep the Bengals, but even in those games that they won, I was really worried about the secondary because Jamar Chase absolutely feasted on the Ravens secondary, but as we've seen over the past couple of weeks, Zach Orr's defense has been improving. Now, there's been concerns at times with Todd Monken's offense, but I really think that they are going to learn from last year and not run the ball 6 times in a playoff game outside of Lamar Jackson, and that was one of the biggest reasons they lost to the Chiefs last year. Obviously, the triple coverage interception wasn't good, and I don't think that's going to happen again from Lamar, but the point is the offensive play calling was horrendous, and I actually think the Ravens are going to do the opposite this year, especially in the first round, because I don't think they're going to be the 1 seed, meaning I think they're going to be playing on wildcard weekend. I think they're going to run the ball the opposite of 6 times, so I think it's going to be 25 or 30 times, and I wouldn't be surprised if Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell all have 8+ carries, and I really wouldn't be surprised if 2 backs have double-digit carries. Derrick, of course, going for 15 or 20, maybe even 25 carries, just to really hammer the point home that the Ravens know what they did last year and that they're going to pound the rock. In that scenario, the way that I would only see them losing is if they fumble the ball multiple times, because as we've seen, the Ravens' rushing offense is one of the best in the league, and as long as they don't turn the ball over, I think they would move on to the divisional round, almost regardless of who they play. Now, Pittsburgh is a little more difficult because we know they play very Pittsburgh Steelers football, meaning they will win ugly, and again, a win is a win, never apologize for a win, but I could absolutely see this team getting beat in the wildcard round of the playoffs. They are vulnerable at times, and I don't want to overreact from the Browns' loss on Thursday, or last Thursday, and say that they're destined for a wildcard loss, when I don't think the schedule makers did them any favors by having them play play the hardest hitting game of the season against the Ravens on Sunday, and then playing another division rival on Thursday. I voiced a lot of opinions about that. I don't think that's very safe for the players to be able to have those back-to-back games like that, regardless of how much they're getting paid. I don't think that's safe for the players. But the point is the Steelers at times will win ugly, and I don't think that's a consistent model to win 4 straight games, wild card, division, conference championship, and then Super Bowl, and I could absolutely see the Steelers getting beat in the wild card round of the playoffs. The big thing for the Steelers to win their first playoff game since 2016 is they're going to have to win the division, and what's particularly unfortunate for the Steelers is their schedule coming up is an absolute nightmare. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Ravens effectively steal the division from them, and the Steelers on the road in the wild card round, whether it would be at Baltimore, at Buffalo, or at Kansas City, I don't think they would win any of those games, and the best case scenario for the Steelers, if they were a wildcard team, and this also applies to Baltimore for that matter too, is if they went to the AFC South division winner in the first round. If either of those teams play an AFC South team in the first round, I think they will go to the divisional round even as a road team in the playoffs, but I could absolutely see the Steelers losing in the first round, kind of due to how they win ugly. The Ravens could also lose. I just think that they would really place an emphasis on running the ball 35-40 times as a team, and I don't think a team would be able to stop that over the course of a 60-minute game. The next take is from Ari Plays Music, who says Will Levis is underrated and that he should not be as hated as much as he is because he has nothing around him, and that Ari is a Lions fan, so it is very unbiased. And to be honest, Ari, I agree with his take for a couple of reasons. When you look at the Tennessee Titans right now, they're not a bad team, and I think they actually are a little bit better than what their record would indicate, but they are certainly not a great team. And even on their best day, I would not pick them to go into a Buffalo or to a Kansas City in the playoffs and win. I think they are a little bit better talent than what their record suggests, but again, it is nowhere close to the most talented in the league, and Will Levis also plays a part within that. Now, within the 2024 season, there's been a lot of talk around young quarterbacks, whether it's rookie quarterbacks like Caleb Williams, whose offensive coordinator was fired during the course of the 2024 season, or Bryce Young, who was benched just a couple of games in, or Anthony Richardson, who was also benched at a point, and we've seen those quarterbacks play better as the season has gone on, but the same also applies to Will Levis. Will Levis had an AC injury earlier in the year, and over the past couple of games, he has looked better, despite what Ari said, not having a lot around him. And whether you guys know this or not, Will Levis has been sacked not 10 times over the last 3 games, not even 12 times over the last 3 games, which would be a lot as that's an average of 4 a game, but he's been sacked 20 times over the last 3 games. And whether the quarterback is Will Levis or an MVP candidate, you are not going to succeed in that type of situation. The Titans offensive line overall is pretty underwhelming. I know JC Latham is obviously very good, and I like JC Latham a lot, but one franchise tackle, or a player who I think will be a franchise tackle, is not going to make every single player better with him along the offensive line, and Peter Skoronski has also been alright, though I think he's underperformed a hair since being drafted in the upper half of the first round in 2023, but the one big problem along the offensive line that can't be ignored is Nicholas Petit-Frere. He has allowed 9 sacks during the 2024 season, which is tied for the most in the league, and that is a complete liability for the Tennessee Titans. And when you factor in that they traded DeAndre Hopkins to just try and save some draft capital that they can, knowing that DeAndre was not going to play there long term, the Tennessee Titans receiving room right now is not good, and Nick Westbrook-Akine is right now the second best receiver in the room, and I don't think that's a very good situation to have. I think Will Levis is underrated, and I also think he's in a bad situation, and if I were the Titans, I would roll into 2025 with Will Levis. He has improved big time over the last 3 games, and obviously with the Bryce Young coming back and Anthony Richardson playing a lot better as well, and Caleb Williams playing a lot better, and given that Will Levis is also 25 years old, there's not a lot of discussion around Will Levis at the moment, and the Titans are a pretty underrated team. They have to really make a lot of noise to be talked about, and I think they are in kind of under the radar team as well, and Will Levis also applies within that. But I do think Will Levis is playing better, and I think he's played a lot better over the past couple of games, and I would agree with this take that he is an underrated player, and even within the Vikings game a couple of weeks ago in the second half, there were several throws that Levis made into tight windows that I was really impressed with, and if he can continue this, and like we saw early on in the 2024 season where it was a very bad play a week, not just a not good play, but an excruciatingly bad play, If he can get those out of his system for good, or maybe just limit them to 1 or 2 a season rather than 1 a week, which in reality cost the Titans from being a 3-8 team to a 7-4 team through 11 games, then I think the narrative around Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans would be a lot different. So I do agree, and if I were the Titans at this specific point in time, I would roll into 2025 with Will Levis as my starting quarterback. I want to do a couple rapid fire takes. The first is from SG Trickshot. It says the Dolphins will win a playoff game, and I'm going to disagree with this mainly because I think they'll be the 7 seed if they even get to the playoffs, which is kind of a tall task at the moment, and that would require them to go into either Buffalo or Baltimore to win a playoff game, maybe even Kansas City, and simply put, I don't think that's going to happen for Miami. It would be great if it did, but I don't think that's going to be a reality for the 2024 Dolphins. The next take is from Rahul Talk Sports. The Buccaneers rally back and the Falcons deteriorate, and Tampa wins the NFC South. I could absolutely see that happening. The path for Tampa to get to the postseason is clear, and they are heating up at the right time. I don't want to get into a conversation of how far can Tampa go, but the Bucs are certainly trending up, and the Falcons are certainly trending down, so I could definitely see that one. Another take is from Clint Kadnick 1345. Bryce Young will lead the Panthers to the playoffs within the next 3 years. I really hope this is the case. I know recently I said that I don't know if Bryce Young will be the starting quarterback for the Panthers entering 2025, but it looks like he's going to be based off the past couple of games, and I really want the best for Bryce, and I really hope that happens, and that would be a tremendous turnaround from really what was the lowest of the low for Bryce Young and the Panthers earlier this year. I wouldn't say I agree with that take just because of how tall of a task that is, but I will say that I sincerely hope that happens for Bryce and the Panthers. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 41% of people watching are subscribed and helps the channel tremendously. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.